Deep blue sea. Mountain and shore. Spring comes to the mountains. Flowers open, and the clouds are heavy with nurturing rain. And above them the constellations seethe and boil to those who know how to look at such things. The waters of Redoubt shimmer with spring magic. The rivers of life flow through the streams and pool in the high mountain lakes. As winter begins to fade, the pilgrims' defiants leave the foothills and head north into Zenith to fight different battles. The Blackthorns and Argent Sword are joined by the Wolves of War. After a day or so to compare strategy and agree on their approach, the three armies hurl themselves forward into Siluri, without compromise or caution, to smash the Grendel forces occupying southern Redoubt and reclaim the territory. They find the barbarians of the Broken Shore in full retreat. They withdraw quickly, efficiently, back towards the coast, towards the port of Elos. They are already moving even as the Empire's armies begin their push south. There are few engagements. Perhaps a warband of raiders lingers a little too long in their enthusiasm to loot the spires of Siluri. Perhaps an unfortunate accident sees a cohort of mercenaries stuck on the wrong side of a fallen bridge. Things go awry for the just and the unjust alike. Such fights are quick, decisive, and largely one-sided. Through Siluri, beneath the shadow of the great mountain that gives the region its name, into Naris, where the would-be city port of Elos stands. There are more Grendel in the lowlands, but they hurry south rather than stand and fight. Even as the Empire's scouts reach the vantage points that will let them see the shore, the Grendel are departing. The last soldiers boarding the azure-sailed ships of the Simum Navy, and then they are gone. The masters of Attar have abandoned the land they claimed in Redoubt. The scars of their assault will take time to heal. They have ruthlessly raided the spires, especially their libraries of lore and the quiet places where crystal mana is harvested. They leave the Tower of Light and Darkness in ruins, the unique Regio tied to it flickering and wounded like a great beached whale. As to Elos itself, the Grendel intended to destroy this place, of that there is no doubt. If not for the sacrifice of the Fist of the Mountains, it would be rubble already, rent apart by the power of Siaka. The destruction of their crystallized storm, stolen from the ruins of the Temple of Tempest Jade, seems to have stymied their scheme to wreck the coastal town. That is not to say that Elos is untouched, quite the contrary. The invaders have taken everything they can lay their hands on, everything that was not hidden away. Yet wealth can be replenished, art recreated, stores restored. Much harder to replace are the people. It seems that rumours that the Salt Lords are reconsidering their position on slavery might have been a little overstated. Or perhaps not entirely. They have not taken Urizeni at random from their beds. There is no suggestion they are looking to fill their salt mines with tormented labourers. The kidnapping has been precise, disciplined. 24 of Elos's finest arcane scholars, and as much of their families as could be found, loaded onto ships headed back towards the Broken Shore. 6 shipwrights and woodshapers, 2 glassmongers, and a recognised expert in the cutting of lightstone. A pinpoint looting of sages and craftsfolk, as one league captain describes it. The great harbour is mostly untouched, the piers and cranes, the docks and the quays intact. There is, however, something in the air, a pressure, as if a storm were about to break, as if the clouds pressed low even in a clear sky. Perhaps the Grendel are keen to be away before whatever tempest is coming breaks. At first there is no explanation for it, but then night falls and a partial explanation becomes apparent. The harbour is marked by 36 obelisks topped with pristine lighthouses, marking out the astromantic constellations of the Stallion, the Door, and the Great Worm. As the last light of the day leaches away from the horizon, the lightstones explode into breathtaking, prismatic displays of light across Elos. Imperial soldiers fear at first that this is some terrible trap left behind by the Grendel, a destructive force waiting in the stones to be unleashed, but the newly liberated Urizeni explain that it has been happening most nights for the last several months. The light brings strange dreams and makes it difficult to sleep, but does not appear to be dangerous. Some glance quickly upwards, shake their heads, put forward their own theories about what is happening. With the coming of the sun in the morning, the light show falters and breaks apart, and the lightstones return to normal, until the next sunset at least. The Grendel are gone. Siluri and Naris are once again in Imperial hands. They are diminished. So much has been taken in the 6 months the barbarians held the port. For now, at least, the Grendel are gone. As the gull flies. Even as the armies of the Empire are moving into the foothills of the Siluri, the Grendel are on the move. They are joined by 5 Asavean warships, allies sent by the Plenum to make war on their enemies in the Empire. Wind Tamer, Venger's Blade, and Ballow's Grace are joined by the priests of the Red Goddess aboard the Blade of Tides, and by Sacpia's Wrath, the flagship of that militaristic Plenum family. 5 warships and their auxiliary vessels, a devastating fist of maritime war that together is a match for the destructive power of the green-sailed Tempest and the blue-sailed Simoon that they sail alongside. Past the shores of Necropolis and the vigilant watchers of Roima's Redoubt they come, through the southern waters of Sarvos, where the chain against chains keeps guard. Could these mighty fortifications withstand this legion of ships? Should they turn their eyes shoreward? Today, at least, the Empire does not need to find out. A few merchant vessels are caught up in their swift advance, like krill in the maw of a great whale, disappearing as if they were never there. But they do not slow their breakneck pace. They seem single-minded, focused on their destination. They come then to Madruga, to Calvos Sound. The Grendel ships raise their war flags, their sails filled with the winds of war. The Asaveans begin to pound their drums, deploying their slave-driven oars. Into Calvos Sound they come, spreading out like a net to catch a very particular fish, and they find their prey has already sped away. There's no doubt what their aim is here. Their scouts quickly seek out the town of Calvos, but do not come closer than the spyglass forces them. They are looking, searching, but they are too late. The Redwind Corsairs are not here. Through the lenses of their own glasses, by purest chance, a freeborn from Calvos marks the moment when the Admiral of the Tempest learns that the Red Wind has blown south. If their story is to be believed, the Admiral punches the messenger in the jaw, and must be restrained from doing further violence by 2 of their own lieutenants. A pretty story, and of doubtful authenticity, but it spreads quickly. Even as the Grendel navies began to move, the Red Wind was calmly sailing south through the coastal waters of Lightsea and across the Bay of Sirach into Faraz. There they began to put to port at Iran. The ships dock, the soldiers and the Corsairs disembark, orderly, almost leisurely. The naval force becomes an army once more, Corsair vessels scattering until such time as they are called upon again to serve their people. At first the Grendel look as if they intend to pursue. Their armada pushes into the narrow passage between the beaches of Lightsea and the chaos of free landing, but then they pull back. The winds are against them, and the risk of becoming overextended apparently too great. The Asavean warships continue a little further under oars into Sirach Bay, but then they too turn back. The invaders rest at anchor off Calvos Sound, far enough away that they are not in danger of attack from any land-borne defences. Perhaps they are hoping the Corsairs will return north for some reason. Perhaps they are arguing about whether to assail the shores of Madruga, shores that are broadly unprotected after all. But it seems the commands of the Salt Lords are clear, whatever they may be. Watchers on the shore, and in the higher towers of Calvos, observe the Grendel force day and night. They mark the great sharks, and Tempest Heralds, and dozen or so pirate vessels that issue from free landing on the night of the new moon to pick at the outermost vessels of the fleet, and note how the disciplined navy quickly dispatches these arrogant attackers. Likewise, barbarian scouts draw close to the coast. A few Madrugan merchant vessels fall foul of them, but most quickly divert their path to take them first south, then east. While they may show a great deal of interest in the construction site of the municipal docks at Calvos Sound, the Armada remains at sea, their allies with them. Once it becomes clear there will be no attack, at least not this season, the freeborn of Madruga go back to their day-to-day lives. Faraz. The Redwind Corsairs disembark at Iran, becoming an army once more. There is a celebration in the streets. The soldiers and sailors are feted by the folk of the port. A night of revelry puts a little colour back into the battered town, lifts spirits. Tales swirl around the town of how the Red Wind slipped out of the grasp of the Grendel, laughed at their strategies, and waits ready once again to take to the waves when the broken shore least expect it. A few more dourheads, sunk in their cups, talk about how close death was on their heels. If the Red Wind had sought to disembark at Calvos, things would have been different, they say. 2 full Grendel navies and 5 elite Asavean warships. There might have been a bloodbath. Vulnerable while betwixt land and sea, even with the support of imperial fleets they might have faced destruction at the hands of their enemies. Their pessimism is largely drowned out by toast after toast, raised to the cunning of the Admiral General, to the cleverness of the Corsairs, to the wily ways of the soldiers of the Red Wind. There are Orc soldiers from the Protectorate of Morhasse in Iran. and with them the potential for violence blossoms. There are those on both sides who have lost friends and comrades to the other. The air turns chill when soldiers of the Red Wind and the veterans of Commander Gallum's protectorate meet. The orcs hold themselves apart from the festivities for the most part, and if they are excited by the news of the Grendel Armada to the north, they do not show it. The garrison soldiers returning to Mora's Rock no doubt bear news of the Red Wind's presence, but if Commander Gallum is concerned about the presence of an Imperial army in Faraz, well, that is his business. For their part, the orcs keep to their agreement with the Senate, patrolling the shores of Faraz and keeping watch and ready to engage any incursion from the Children of Rex or the Serani. Across the straits from Moransri, the Iron Confederacy remains impassive. A few civilian ships visit the ports along the brass coast of Faraz, looking to trade. Likely there are a few spies among them. For the most part, though, their interest seems purely mercantile. Where they can, they buy provisions and gewgaws with carefully rationed handfuls of imperial coinage, then return to the Isles of Khazar. There is speculation about what might happen if the Grendel Armada had tried to come south. Would the Iron Confederacy have fought them? Would the barbarians have sought to engage the Serani? Would their pinpoint focus on the Red Wind have left them vulnerable? Hard to say. The Children of Rex are gone, hunted and driven out by the Serani and with no berth along the shores of Faraz that will take them. The territory is, if not peaceful, at least quiet. Game information. Imperial forces have reclaimed Siluri and Naris in Redoubt, returning the territory completely to the Empire's control. While the spires in these regions have been looted, and several dozen Orizeni have been kidnapped by the Grendel, the territory is mostly undamaged. The exception is the Tower of Light and Shadow, which was devastated by the Grendel during the autumn equinox. The Tilfussian Reach, which provided power to the tower, has been disrupted by day magic, and if and when it settles back down again, it is unlikely to do so in the same configuration. The Hesychian docks and the great harbour at Elos have both reopened. The Keymaster of the Hesychian docks and the Elosian Architect will both be able to use their ministries following the spring equinox. The normal election cycle for these titles resumes. The Redwind Corsairs have completed their take to the land manoeuvre and are once again an army in Faraz. The Iron Confederacy continues to control the Khazar Straits, and the Protectorate of Morahase remains in the west. The Empire maintains overall control of Faraz. There is still no sign of Alean Sweetwater. The prognosticator remains missing. Opportunity. Fist of the Mountain. With Elos once again in Imperial hands, there is an opportunity to raise the banner of the Fist of the Mountain in the port town in honour of the Wintermark soldiers who gave their lives to protect it. Further details would be provided nearer to the event.